Hi, I'm Barbra Dillon, Editor-in-Chief of Fanbase Press. Given the positive impact of the Eisner Awards, their importance to the comic book industry, and Fanbase Press's own mission to celebrate fandoms, we have once again launched our annual Countdown to the Eisners series. With Countdown to the Eisners, we seek to highlight the Eisner Award nominations for 2021 and provide comic book industry members and readers alike the opportunity to learn more about the nominees and their work. This year, we're chatting with industry professionals about why the Eisner Awards are impactful to them, which category is the most interesting, and which one nominated title should not be missed. For our very first question, why are the Eisner Awards impactful for you?
So I'm really excited to see that the Eisners have evolved significantly, particularly over the last few years, in terms of diversity, representation, and I love being able to say that I know Eisner nominated creators that I'm teaching, Eisner nominated, Eisner award winning work, and that sort of thing. And I think that these awards really do highlight some of the best work in comics and also leads us to read other related work. So I really enjoy seeing this list, especially, as I said, in the last several years and seeing what's being recognized.
The impact of the Eisner Awards is in many ways kind of a mixed message. The Eisner Awards are in many ways a means of enshrining the structural inequities in the comics industry. Like their counterparts, the Oscars, the Grammys, and Emmys, they often spend years ignoring talented artists from underrepresented audiences, only to heap praise on latter-day works like the last person hanging onto the bandwagon. This happens while also lionizing abusers and those who protect and proliferate their interests. Don't get me wrong, it's an enormous honor to get the recognition. A number of my friends have been nominated, some of my friends have even won Eisners. But in my mind, it always has a kind of asterisk next to it because the question becomes who got ignored. Dwayne McDuffie never won an Eisner. Christopher Priest never won an Eisner. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely been a lot of amazing work recognized, but the blind spots seem really, really big to me. And there are, to me, serious questions. For example, I looked in Eisner history that Alan Moore won Best Writer for 3 years in a row for the same book. And one of those years was the year when Dwayne McDuffie was in the running. So don't get me wrong, I don't want to take anything away from Alan Moore. I don't want to take anything away from his amazing work or his legacy. But if you give the Best Writer award 3 years in a row to the same person, what are you saying as an organization? And that's just the way I look at it.
While they don't impact me personally, because I'm not among the nominees or somebody with skin in the game like a publisher, I find it to be such a great celebration of comics and the comic form, both new, archival, obviously these categories are named, all over the map. And it's such a great opportunity to discover maybe creators and works that people haven't heard of before. And I think it's just a great thing for the industry. And there are some who say like the Eisners ceremony itself can be long, and I imagine it could be if you are a regular nominee who's there every year. I love going to the Eisners. I love seeing everyone and hearing the speeches, and I'm just a fan of it as a concept. We can bicker about the quality, the meaning of awards and pitting one work of art against another, but I think it's just great as a celebration overall of the art form.
The Eisner Awards are impactful from the standpoint of amplifying my reading, my knowledge of the field, getting into areas that I might normally be pursuing, because what I do, I was doing it even before I was a judge, was doing as best I could to read every single thing on the list of nominees. And as I've said on in various places, including Bryant's interview with me that's on Fanbase Press, for me, it's all about the nominees. That's what's really important about the Eisner Awards. The rest, pretty much a popularity contest. It's like, okay, I haven't read everything, but I know, I know this person. And so yeah, it's definitely a learning process, and for me, I'm very grateful for that. There's nothing like it, just in terms of expanding my scope. And so yeah, I check out every nominee before I vote. And another thing that happened this year was that was the Hall of Fame, which last year, the Hall of Fame, the judges got 2 votes, and which I was very proud of both of our choices, the Nell Brinkley and E. Sims Campbell. But at the time, I was also saying, well, there are a lot of people that, again, because of the popularity factor, they're never going to get never going to get recognized. For example, we had among our nominees for the Voters' Choice, we had Thomas Nast, Lily Renee, Francois Mouly, and this time, I was saying, well, judges 2, voters 4, should be the other way around. Well, it turns out that the Eisners topped me. Now it's the voters 4 and the judges 6. And so, and 3 of the 6 are the ones I just mentioned. And then there's Rudolf Topfer and Alberto Breccia, the Argentinian, Mort Cinder. So, this is just wonderful. I'm deliriously happy that they made this decision, because those judges really work hard with these decisions. So that's that's why it's impactful.
Our next question for our industry professionals: which nominated category is the most interesting to you this year, and why?
The categories I'm looking at most closely this year definitely include Best Limited Series, because if Far Sector does not win, every point that I'm making is proven. It's absolutely diaphanous. I have gone a long way to sing the praises of Far Sector, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. It, in many ways, redefined what could be done in superhero comics, and put so many brilliant ideas out that, yeah, Best Limited Series, no disrespect to any of the nominees, but it absolutely has to be Far Sector. I'm personally hoping that Banned Book Club wins for Best Graphic Memoir. The publisher is not exactly what you'd call on the ends with the elites in the industry, but is showing a completely different business model. And I believe it's run by one of the greatest minds in comics, whether people recognize that or not. So I'm looking at Best Graphic Memoir and Best Limited Series very closely. I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't want Darren Bennett to win for Best Lettering, because I've just really enjoyed his work, again, in Far Sector and some other places. And I'm also completely outing my own personal votes, guilty as charged. No even attempted hiding my partisan nature there. But those would be the categories where my eyes specifically turn to. There's a couple of dark horses and surprises, apologies to Mike Richardson, that I'm still looking at otherwise, but those are the ones where my attention is most closely focused.
Okay, the one that's most important to me, being someone who teaches a class at Art Center here in Pasadena, titled The Design History of Comics and Animation, I am naturally interested in the old stuff. And so for me, the biggest delight was the best archival collection / project for comic strips. And yeah, just taking it real back. And it's one of those things where there were 5 nominees. There are 5 nominees. And every one of them, you can pick up any one of those books and you are in for a treat. You're in for enlightenment, the rest of it. 2 of them are pretty standard. I think even last year, Walt Kelly's Pogo complete syndicated strips and Harriman's Crazy and Ignatz, the early years. We also nominated those editions last year. So that's pretty much what you're expecting, but there was also a third. Oh, and all 3 of these from Fantagraphics, coincidentally. or maybe not so, is Trina Robbins's book Flapper Queens, the women cartoonists of the jazz age, 20s and 30s, a fabulous book, very important introduction for people who aren't familiar with a lot of Trina's past work, where she's been giving more in-depth information on these people. And so yeah, it's a great intro. The gross exaggerations for content, for substance. You can't beat what Peter Maresca, Sunday Press, did for Milk Gross there. It's just, really, and again, it's pretty much, even though it's standard, it's like, oh, it's Sunday Press, they're going to get in there every year, but that's a good thing. like with Pogo and Crazy. But so yeah, if you want to learn about Milk Gross, you couldn't do better substantively than pick up gross exaggerations. But the last one I wanted to mention, the real revelation for me that I hadn't known about, the title is Little Debbie and the Second Coming of Elmo. What? What the? And basically, these are daily comic strips that were created by this guy, Cecil Jensen. This particular edition is from 60, 61. I mean, Elmo was the original strip, and it just evolved into Little Debbie at the very end. It's independently published, Labor of Love Press, and the strip itself only ran like a dozen years or so. But this thing, I mean, it's a kid's strip in appearance, but it's bizarre, it's dark, it's weird, it's wild, it's satirical, and it's like, 240 pages. It actually includes Jensen's political cartoons as well. And there's also Frank King's, Frank M. Young's text, which is also very smart and very entertaining. So it's definitely just one of the wonderful discoveries that the Eisner Awards has to offer, for which I'm always grateful.
So I have two favorites. I have two big favorites this year. One of them is a category, well, really both that I look closely at every year, but my two big favorites are, first of all, the best adaptation from another medium. I love seeing what folks are putting together, what's being created and recreated from one medium into comics. And in the category this year, best adaptation from another medium, there are two that stand out for me. The first one is Superman Smashes the Klan. I love just about everything that Gene Yang works on, and that one I find super interesting. And my personal favorite is Parable of the Sower, the graphic novel adaptation. And that one is from adapted by Damian Duffy and John Jennings, who happen to be two friends of mine. Very generous creators, and just really amazing to see what they're doing with Octavia Butler's work. I've had them, I've used Kindred in my classroom, which is their first adaptation of Butler's work, and it goes over incredibly well, and it leaves audiences, my students in particular, really wanting more from them. So now they have a second work, and I'm hoping at some point they will have, the complete collection. I can have an entire Octavia Butler plus adaptation course. And then the other one, the other favorite is what I think of as my selfish favorite, which is the best academic and scholarly work, because I like to see what's going on in scholarly work on comics. And in that category, my just outstanding favorite is Rebecca Wanzo's The Content of Our Caricature, African-American Comic Art and Political Belonging. And I had the opportunity to hear a talk online, of course, through Zoom about this work, and it is phenomenal. And I'm really excited to see that it's getting a nomination, and I hope it wins this category.
So looking at the nominees list, the two categories that jump out to me are Best Writer and Best Lettering. And why those two nominees is because you've got some people working on multiple books inside those categories. So they are jammed with good material in both of those categories. The others is kind of a one-to-one nominee and the work that they're nominated for, but lettering and writer, really, you just look at they're just so, for lack of a better term, meaty and just so rich with material. Those were the two that I kind of went, whoa. And just, you could just scan through all the titles and go, oh, that person did that, that's right. Oh, and that, and that, and that. And you just realize how many of these creators have so much like wealth to give to readers, to be able to crank out multiple things that are all nominated in the same year. Hats off.
Lastly, which nominated title would you encourage readers not to miss?
Okay. I'm going to cheat and tell you what I'm not going to pick because this was the hardest question. My favorite current comic is Department of Truth from Image, and that is nominated. And I also love the graphic novel, The Loneliness of the Long Distance Cartoonist by Adrian Tomina, also nominated, but I'm not going to pick it. Instead, my pick is going to be an adaptation of one of my all-time favorite novels, which is Slaughterhouse-Five, written by Ryan North, illustrated by Albert Montes, and released by Boom. And I thought it was a masterclass in adaptation of a prose work into a visual medium. And the great thing about it is, I think if you love Slaughterhouse-Five, the novel, you can read this and get love for it on a whole other level. If you've never read Slaughterhouse-Five, the novel, I think this stands on its own and can be enjoyed by any reader. And I thought it was just, it's my favorite nominee, and that is saying something this year because I have a lot of favorites. I only picked the top three, but Slaughterhouse-Five from Boom is my Eisner quote unquote winner for this year.
If I had to narrow it down, out of all the disparate and widely considered nominees, what would I say people cannot miss, they cannot pass up? Again, it would absolutely have to be Far Sector. N.K. Jemisin brought a sensibility and a thoroughness to what happened in the Green Lantern works, which now we see spilling over into the Jeff Thorne book and some other things that are really coming out, that has made the franchise brand new in a way that, you know, with all due respect, has not happened maybe ever. It's really amazing. If you're doing anything in comics remotely related to superheroes, science fiction, or politics, you absolutely have to read Far Sector. You should stop looking at me. You should just close whatever you're doing, shut the window, get up and go right now and read it. It is one of the most creative, well thought out, well drawn, well written, well colored, and well lettered things that I've seen in years. And I cannot sing its praises highly enough.
Oh, just one. How can I sneak in just one more? Well, you know, in general, the Europe, I'm a big fan of Europe comics, which before last year, they never had any nominees at all in the Eisners, and my group and I managed to get 4 of them. And this year it's about the same. And you know, there's always, because everybody does the why wasn't this and that done. There's one that so technically it's not a nominated title, so I'm not breaking the rules, but I really recommend that everybody check out Europe Comics' Delacroix, which is just remarkable for so many reasons, which I don't have time to go into. But the one nominated title of the Europe Comics that I would particularly recommend, and it actually is nominated in 2 categories. It's Gentle Mind, and takes place in 1950s New York. And the art is very stylish, really complements the story. It's a story about a woman who loses her partner who's also her lover, and she finds herself at the as the boss of a small men's magazine called Gentle Mind. And it's just the tale itself, the graphic novel, is basically 30 years in the life of a really remarkable woman. And it's beautiful, it's moving, it's very alive. So that is definitely my what I would encourage readers to check out, in addition to Delacroix.
So that's, I was thinking about this question, and as much as I feel like it's a cheat, I'm going to say I cannot choose one, but in a productive way, because I think a great way to approach this question and to approach this giant list of works that folks may not entirely be familiar with is to look at the lists, and it's a great list, and choose 5. Choose 5 that just stand out for whatever reason, whether it's the name or the creator or something about it. And I think that's a great way to introduce ourselves to these works. But I also want to mention, unprompted for the record, that there are a lot of Fantagraphics titles on here. And I was so excited to see that. And that just makes me all warm and fuzzy. Because I think Fantagraphics is doing some incredible work. So make sure you take a look at some of the Fantagraphics work, go to their website, etc. But go through that list and take a chance, right? Anything that stands out to you. And I do think folks need to read the Octavia Butler adaptation, Parable of the Sower, that I mentioned, but also, now I've forgotten the name of it, the sci-fi, oh shoot, it got a bunch of awards and now I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, just go through the list and pick 5 that stand out for you.